Instant analysis coming to us from Elliotte Friedman on the departure of Dave Tippett behind the Edmonton Oilers bench. And Elliotte, I know on many nights I've seen you on Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada discussing the possible departure of Dave. What do you make about it finally happening?
You know, Gina, I think Ken Holland has put off some challenges internally about doing some things. You know, there was a lot of pressure, not only from internally, but I think the fan base, you know, trade for a goalie. He didn't like the options that were out there at the price it was going to cost. There were a lot of questions about should he fire Ken Holland, because you fired Dave Tippett. And I think he put it off for the time and he said he didn't want to do that. I just think after the last two games, right out of the All-Star break, to have two performances back-to-back like that, I just think that finally he realized he had to do something. I've been saying for a few weeks now, missing the playoffs in Edmonton this season is not an option, and there would be consequences. And I think when, you know, you have games in hand and, you know, sometimes you lose, Gene, but the way they lost those two games to Vegas and Chicago, I just think the Oilers as an organization felt they had to do something different. They couldn't just keep the same approach the way things were going.
Edmonton has had a history in changing coaches, and this is the most recent one. When you look at Dave Tippett, here's a guy who's been in the game a long time, has had success. Was it difficult to sort of decide because there are times where the Oilers were cold, they had an incredible start, they were good before the All-Star break, not so good after the break. Is it a difficult situation to read?
Well, I just think that what it came down to was if they – like, I really believe that Ken Holland thought, if you looked at some of the underlying numbers, Gene, when things were going really badly in January, you could attribute a lot of that to they weren't getting saves, right? And I think Ken Holland stuck to that. He said, we're not getting saves, and if we get some saves, we're going to be better. And that actually did start to happen. I think the problem was, if you take a look at last night's game in particular, you know, first of all, I think people were surprised that Smith went back-to-back. And I actually don't think Smith was the problem. It looked terrible because he gave up two early goals, but I thought he played really hard and made a lot of great saves. But, Gino, I looked at the first two goals last night. They were on cross-ice passes that went right through the crease. Yeah. And do I think that's all on coaching? No, I don't. But I think it's pretty obvious that this roster is not responding anymore, and it has to change. And sometimes the easiest change is the head coach. And I think that, you know, Jay Woodcroft has had success with the young players. I think, you know, Evan Bouchard, I think that's the other thing I think that's going to happen here. And I wonder if this is specifically part of the plan, Gene, is that, you know, Evan Bouchard needs more of a role. Maybe Stuart Skinner needs more of an opportunity. I'm mixed on that one. But, you know, Duncan Keith got hurt last night, and he's probably going to be out a little bit. I just think they feel that this group is not responding, and it's time to do something a little different. They're not great on details. They also don't play with a lot of passion, and I just wonder if, you know, Dave Manson too, as part of that, is going to be in charge of, let's see a little bit more passion here.
Elliotte, how do you think this impacts the dynamic duo of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid?
Well, I'm sure that, well, first of all, like, look, you're the weirdest thing about McDavid this year, Gene, is that the shooting percentage when he's on the ice is the worst it's ever been while he's been there in his career. It's kind of a strange thing. You don't think that's going to last. And that is one of the reasons I think the Oilers are struggling, is that in the past, when McDavid and Draisaitl are on the ice, they're destroying other teams and goals. That's not happening this year. And because that's not happening this year, a lot of the other issues that the team has to deal with are made to look worse because you're not caving in everybody else when those two guys are out there. Look, you know, like, I don't think that I would ever say that those two are the problem, but they've got to lead you out of it. And I think that's, you're just hoping right now that it gives them a jolt of enthusiasm. It gives them a jolt of, this is something different. And that's what you need at this point in time. They just looked so flat the last two nights, Gene. You can't have that.
Elliotte, appreciate the instant analysis.
My pleasure, Gino.